right. Hey, Jane, how's it going?
It's great. How are you?
Not too bad. I was actually ignoring stocks this morning, and then you told me about that you were watching MGT here, and I had to go and take a look at that. Definitely pretty exciting and pretty interesting. Uh,
Definitely.
I had to actually close all of my windows after you said that you did. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll put away mine too.
Well, I know for myself, if it's up, I'm going to watch it. So I wanted to give you my full attention.
Yeah, yeah. So we first met when I was running the initial week-long digital stock summit, and you were actually one of my best affiliates. You found me. I don't even know how you initially found me, but you did, and you signed up, and you were probably one of the number one people driving traffic my way. And after we talked a little bit more, I said, "Holy crap, this girl is really cool. We've got to talk to her." And not too long after, you actually had mentioned being exactly that, being interested in doing an interview and especially wanting to show other women that it is possible. It's not just a guy's game.
Definitely, definitely.
So, yeah, here we are. I guess just to kind of get started, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself? What made you first interested in stocks, and maybe a little quick summary of how you've gotten to this point and where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for myself, I've never been a 9 to 5 person. Right after college, I started working in banking. Didn't really like it. I found it a little boring. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to try the stock market. It seems more interesting. So I went and I got my Series 7 and worked as a registered assistant. I was working at Smith Barney in Atlanta in the WorldCom office where they had all their options. And unfortunately, they had advised the employees to go ahead and use margin against their options, and the stock tanked.
Ooh.
So a lot of the employees were underwater. I saw the devastation and I thought, you know what? I'm not sure that I want to work with other people's money. So I went ahead and I took a voluntary layoff and I went and studied culinary school in Europe for a year instead. So it was a wonderful, wonderful change. And then I moved to Philadelphia and I started working in the culinary world. And I ran my own business as a wholesale pastry chef. And when you have your own business, you also have to pay for insurance. So I worked as well in customer service in the airlines, which is not a great paying job. But when I was there, I met my husband, and he's from Canada. So I moved up to Montreal, and I kept my job with the airlines, so that when I would have a job once I immigrated into Canada. Once I was up here, we got married, had our first child, and I had a year of maternity leave. And I was trying to think, I really want to be present. You know, having a child changed my life. She became number one. And I wanted to figure out how I could be present for her and still have an income coming in. And my husband was the one that actually reminded me I'd had a good investment where I bought $25,000 worth of American Airlines when it was in bankruptcy. And then over the next 9 months, they merged with US Airways. They reissued their stock, and I ended up turning 25,000 into 250,000.
Wow, way to
Yeah.
go.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was like, yeah, I do love it. I love the numbers. I love doing the research. So maybe I should look more into this. And as a process, I went ahead and I started doing research online, and I came across Timothy Sykes' page, and I thought, this almost looks too good to be true. This might be bogus. I'm not sure about this. So I started doing my research and seeing reviews, and actually signed up as his challenge student. And I told my husband, I said, you know what, this is the time. I've got 6 months where our daughter is home. I can really study this and learn the ins and outs of it. So I signed up. I got accepted. I started studying, and my daughter was about 6 months at the time. And I used to schedule her nap time around morning open so that I could be sitting at the computer to watch the open. Well, it didn't work so well for me. I didn't follow rules. I went ahead and I started trading as soon as I opened up my account. I blew up a $6,000 account pretty quickly. I was not working. It was not working for me trying to follow Tim's patterns, but I did learn a lot of the basics from Tim. And I put it on hold for about 5 months until November. And then September, excuse me, once my daughter went back to daycare, then I had the free time where I could really devote to watching the market, watching the patterns, and moving forward with stocks. So I started doing that. I started to actually look at gappers for the days, and I would track them. I would put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and I would see, okay, this one gapped up and this one gapped down, and what is the trend for these? What typically happens? Is it, for stocks that go up and they have a great gap up, okay, so it's maybe 3 days that it's going up, and then you have people that are going to go ahead and take their gains. Sometimes they'll go ahead and if it's an overnight explosion of news, they might go ahead and start selling it open if it went up after market. For the gap downs, I would watch and I would wait because I figured, okay, they're the shorts and they're going to start to cover and that's going to create a bounce. So I started watching for the reversals, and that's really my number one play that I really enjoy because I see it setting up and I can almost feel the tension in the price movement on the level two. And I know, and I also watch the three charts, 1, 2, and 5 minute charts for a stock so that I can see when it switches from green to red, or excuse me, red to green on all three. That's usually an indicator for me. Okay, go ahead and get in. Sometimes I'm not so good. Sometimes I get in early and I end up averaging down. But that's pretty much a little synopsis of me getting into the market and a little bit of what I do.
Okay. And I don't want to get, I guess, too far ahead of myself, but at this point, you have done well enough to earn yourself the nickname Sugar Jane, right?
Yes, yes. Actually, my husband came up with that after I had my first absolutely amazing week where I'd made 27,000 in a week. And I was just, it's surreal because
Wow.
when I was working at the airlines up here, granted, it was part-time. I was working 32 hours a week. I was waking up at 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning for a 4 o'clock start, working 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I was making roughly 800 a month part-time, working 120 hours in a month. So for me, it was like, is this really happening? Is this my new reality? And the fact of the matter is, it is because I make roughly 1,000 a day. That's my goal that I try to achieve. Some days I make it, some days I lose, but I know that every trade is a fresh trade.
That is fantastic. And I think we'll kind of come back around and finish up talking about all of that a little bit more. But I kind of wanted to give everybody a early on taste of where this is all going to, and maybe give everyone some incentive to stick around and listen.
Yes.
So I also kind of want to touch on really quick. You said that you did a lot of research into Tim. What was it about him that you drew you in? I mean, there are so many different services, so many different mentors, so many different gurus, so to speak, out there. What was it that made you feel like he was the right one for you?
Well, looking at his site, I was very interested in the penny stocks, basically because that's exactly what I did with American Airlines. I bought it at $1.51, excuse me, $2.51, and sold it basically up at 40. So it was the long shot, the home run. It's the rarity, but it did happen and it did work for me. And so I thought, okay, yes, I see that penny stocks are viable as a source of generating income. You don't have to play the large cap stocks. My parents were always into value investing, so I actually grew up with them reading the Wall Street Journal every morning, and I started learning about stocks, but it was always in their mind a long-term investment. So I wanted to be more proactive and work day to day and really watch the price action and have my hands wet in it. So seeing Tim's site and seeing his honesty through his site, the positives and the negatives, and showing how people can learn from a negative really taught me a lot because I could see his faults, so I wouldn't necessarily do them myself. Some things like his rules, don't trade before you understand what's going on. Yes, I had to learn that the hard way, but I see that as my market tuition,
Mm-hmm.
In going to school, you have to pay tuition. Well, that was my market tuition. But I try to help people not have that happen and say paper trade from the beginning. Because once I started paper trading, I really learned how to execute trades, when to get in, when to get out, understanding the price action and studying the market as opposed to just, oh, emotionally jumping into a trade. This is going to work for me. I hope it's going to go there, which isn't the reality.
Okay. And so you do see a lot of value in paper trading for yourself.
I do, definitely. I highly recommend it to everybody that follows me.
Sure. And that was one of the things that I touched on several times throughout the summit was because it's such a polarizing issue. Some people are like, yes, it's great. It's a great way to learn and to understand what's going on. And then other people are like, no, there's no emotional attachment to it. It's not the same. So it sounds like you're definitely on the pro camp. Where do you see it in terms of, I guess, not having the emotional attachment? Does that hurt people?
Well, I think it probably does hurt people a little bit, but if they use an automated system online to like think or swim, then they can go and if someone's never traded before, they learn how to put the trades in before they get in with real money, so they're not as likely to lose because they're fumbling around. How do I put in a sell? It's going against me. How do I stop this? Because they've had the practice of doing it online. As far as paper trading without emotions, I think until people actually use their real money, that is something it is a changeover for them. That they are going to start to feel the emotions and the struggles. It's going down 2 cents. Should I get out? Is this going to go against me? That's going to happen for sure. And you can't replace that with paper trading, but at least with paper trading, you can start to see the patterns. And if you do it electronically, you can learn how to enter the trades.
Sure. And so that's interesting. You're the first person who's touched on just the basic mechanics of how do I use this platform. I haven't heard anybody mention that side of it before, and you're absolutely right. That's a pretty important part. But
yeah, well, it's any software.
Yeah,
you've got to learn a new software in order to be able to trade. And if somebody's trying to, there's so much information in trading. Why not do it in baby steps and take a little bit each day? And then go forward with it instead of, okay, here are the keys. It's like getting keys to a car and you're 13 years old. Go ahead and drive. Well, you don't know the rules of the road. You haven't learned anything except for, okay, accelerate, stop, maybe use my blinkers. But you haven't learned all the nuances. And so in giving someone an account fresh off the bat without studying anything or without testing it, they're going to blow it up more than likely. I think that's the reason why 90% fail, because they don't take the time to learn the baby steps.
Sure. And I actually really love that. That's something that I never would have really thought of, but it's a foundational component of what you're doing. So when you're getting ready for your trading day, what does that look like? What kind of research do you go through to prepare, and what time does it start? Is it the night before, the day of?
For sure. Well, for me, I start my research at about 4:00. I'll go ahead and do a scan, and because I do like gappers, I will see what has closed up high and what's closed low for the day, and I go ahead and I mark that down, and I'll see what has a high short float to it, and then I put it aside until after 8:00, and then I'll go ahead and I'll see what has changed in the aftermarket hours. Because with my daughter, I pick her up at 4:00. After I do my scan, I go pick her up from daycare. It's her time. I prioritize her. She goes to daycare because she absolutely loves it. And I pick her up because I miss her and I'm done with my day. So why not go ahead and pick her up and we play and we have fun. But then she goes down around 7:00. And so I have an hour to relax, and then I do my scans again after 8:00. If it's a night where I'm doing my blog, I'll do my blog as well. I try to input my trades on Profitly as I do them throughout the day so that I don't take time away from my daughter or my family. And then in the morning, I take care of her. I drop her off at daycare. I should be back at my desk about by 9:12, 9:10, 9:12. Open everything up, and I look to see what's in play that morning. So I try to track what has happened from the day before, but after hours and pre-market, those dictate really what I'm looking at. Because if something's in play with volume, it's going to be liquid to get in and out. If it doesn't have any liquidity to it, depending on my size, I might get stuck and really get underwater because I can't get out of the trade. So I always want a stock that's got a lot of volume to it. And because I do like to play reversals, I like to look and see what has gapped so that I know that there's going to be a lot of opposition and reversing that's going to happen throughout the day.
Okay. And so do you typically go long or short on those?
I typically go long lately because my broker, which is Wells Fargo, I don't always get shorts. So I look more for the longs because I know that I'm going to be able to execute an entry. If it's a short, I can get frustrated and I don't want to go into a trade or track a stock that I'm not going to be able to get into and then get frustrated on it and you know, change my mindset for the day and get hung up on frustration instead of getting a good entry into a stock.
Sure. I know for me it's more about the mentality. It's really hard for me to get into the mentality of thinking about why should a company go down instead of why should a company go up. Uh,
Well, for me, it's the same reasoning. I look for the Bollinger Bands. If it's overextended, whether it's up in price action or down in price action. To me, it's going to come back one way or the other. But I find that longs are easier to execute.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about the strategy of actually working with those trades. Are there any particular indicators that you like looking for, and how do you scale in and out?
For me, I look at the stock. Basically, I'll look at it at open. I try to sit on my hands until about 9:45, 9:50 because as I've tracked my trades in Profitly and writing them down, I see that if I make an entry before then, it's usually going to go against me. If I go long, I usually do not profit. So I try to wait until there's a clear reversal on the day around 9:50, and because there's the morning panic, right? So if it's gapped down, you have some short covers that are just going to execute immediately. So it's going to spike up a little bit, but then it's probably people are going to continue in the same direction, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to continue down until about 10 o'clock, and then it's going to go ahead and rebound. So I look for the price action, and I also look for Bollinger Bands. If it completely tanks outside of the Bollinger Band, then I know that it's going to have the rubber band snapback effect, and it's going to go right back up pretty much to the bottom of the Bollinger Band. And I also look at RSI. So I track the RSI on the 1 minute chart, and I see, okay, well, it's getting to be oversold. There's not a lot of liquidity then of the actual stock in the market because you're only going to have so many shares that can trade hands, and it's basic supply and demand. Once you've eliminated all the shares because people have sold them, then people are going to start scrambling and they're going to start buying like crazy, and then it's going to go right back up. So I use RSI and Bollinger Bands. Those are my two primary ones.
Okay. And actually, I guess I also should have asked this back when we were talking about the research. Do you use any tools that you're, I guess, looking for these scans with, or I guess you said that you like Thinkorswim, and that's I imagine what you're watching these on.
No, you know what? I actually haven't used Thinkorswim. My brother, who is just starting to trade as well, has used that for. Sorry, my phone is beeping. Has used that for his electronic paper trading and has really liked it. I actually did it the old school way where I wrote down my trades in a book. I still write down my trades in a book and then I transfer them electronically just because the parameters of Wells Fargo are not that great, but I had my initial value account there, so I just continued holding it there. With scanning for stocks, I really like using FinViz. I like to look at their fundamentals, the screeners, and I put in my parameters there. I also use trade ideas throughout the day. If the stocks that I have picked in the morning are not performing, then I'm going to go ahead and look and see what else I have on my alerts in my cloud with trade ideas. And I'm usually in the trade ideas chat room, their trading room throughout the day so that I hear audibles, because to me, without having a chat room in the background, it's very lonely. I need to have somebody talking in order to be comfortable. I don't know. It's just personal thing.
No, I get you. So I work 100% remote in all of the various jobs that I do. And I was working from my apartment and found the exact same thing. I was very lonely, especially coming from a larger corporation. I was actually a government service.
Okay.
so very large. And now I'm in a co-working spot because I just found I wanted people around, even if I wasn't working directly with them.
Yes.
So that's an interesting take on that. Finding a chat room just kind of for that sound, that community, that comfort.
Definitely. Well, and I learn auditorily too. So if I hear an audible alert from somebody, hey, check out this stock like CWEI, it's breaking out today, then I'll go and I'll look at it too. But I'm not necessarily going to enter, but it also gives me the audible alerts.
Okay, interesting. And so, Trade Ideas seems like they're a very new company, right?
They are. They're
Okay.
actually going on Shark Tank this Thursday.
Oh, cool.
Well, sorry, they're going for the interview this
The
Thursday.
interview. Okay. Yeah, because I've just, it seems like maybe the last few months out of nowhere, they've just kind of appeared and everybody is suddenly talking about them. Uh, I guess, I don't want to plug any particular company or service too much, but it sounds like they're kind of one of your main tools.
Definitely, definitely. I really enjoy using them. I mean, I'm still part of Tim's site and I still watch his videos, his daily recap videos, and his watch list. But one of his main ideas is to teach traders the basics and then have them go on to basically fend for themselves, create their own watch list, and execute their own trades. So that's what I've done. A lot of people say, well, you don't trade like Tim Sykes. Why do you recommend him? I said, well, because that's his idea. To me, trading is you have to find the niche that works for you. If you're, whatever your comfort level is, whatever your risk tolerance is, you have to find the trades that make you comfortable because if you try doing what other people do, it's not necessarily being honest to yourself and you're going to execute those trades poorly and it's just going to blow up and go against you because you're trying to do something that's not you. If that makes sense.
Sure. So, I guess really quick, what is it about Trade Ideas that really, I guess, made you such a big fan about them versus other tools?
Well, with Trade Ideas, they have so many different, they have about 19 different alert pages, and then you can also set up your own alerts. So you can create your own alert that's going to scan all of the stocks. They're going to see whatever your price action is, however you set up your parameters. It's going to let you create a list so that you get a pop-up when that stock meets your criteria. And they also have a back test. So you can go in and you can see, okay, I like to have the bottom bouncers that have potentially hit 52-week lows within the past 3 days. And I love Fridays because people tend to close their shorts. So I watch those stocks throughout the week that have hit the 52-week low. I see how active they are. And that's something that I do is I'll set up parameters to find those bottom bouncers. And it's great because whatever your parameters are that you like, you can customize it. If you don't want to customize it, they also have an artificial intelligence. They have stocks that are on the move in social media. They have stocks that are gapping up, stocks that are gapping down. They have ETFs. They have all sorts of things. So there's something for everybody in it. It's not just one sort of scanning software. And it's customizable to you. And if you want to talk in the chat rooms, and they have a page too where other traders exchange ideas. They have a cloud where you can exchange your link to your scanning alerts. So you can share it with everybody, or you can also put in price alerts and you can share those too.
Cool.
So there's just so many options. That's why I find it so amazing because it's not limited to just say charting and price alerts on the chart.
So really that flexibility and that customization.
Yes.
Perfect. So how many of these stocks are you typically looking at in any particular day or hour?
Well, for myself, I will usually maximum be in about 3 stocks just because it's a lot to watch. Once I'd say the entry is the most crucial part for me because if it's a reversal, I want to try to get in at the bottom. Of course, everybody says that, but it's difficult. And I always think of Warren Buffett's saying, I know I'm going to mess it up, but it's, I don't remember what it is, but to the essence of, you should buy when everybody else is panicking because
Be
you're
greedy
going
when
to.
others are fearful.
There you go.
That's
There
it.
you go. Be greedy when others are fearful because then you're going to get the discount. To me, I told my husband this. I said, I'm a bargain shopper, right? So it's funny. That's turned out to what I like to do in stocks. I like to find the value stocks pretty much, or stocks that have some value that are in play, and I go and I buy those when they're undervalued and wait for it to bounce up.
Do you typically hold things overnight, or do you just close out at the end of each day?
It depends. If it's a stock that has had a lot of sell-offs throughout the week and it's closing strong to the day, I will hold it overnight because I'm holding it in anticipation of shorts covering and gapping it up in the morning.
Okay. So I guess along with those kinds of plays, there's of course a lot of risk. What do you do to try and protect yourself from, any potential negative eventuality?
Right. Well, what I try to do is I try to use hard stops, which I've really been doing actually since Friday. I was seeing that I was just letting things run against me, and that was something that I was bad about, was not necessarily cutting my losers when I should, which of course is going to help to retain the profits. So I started to really use hard stops to protect my profits as it's running up, but also to protect myself so that I'll take a minimal loss when it's going down if it goes down any further.
How do you decide where you put those stops?
I look at the support lines, and I also look, obviously if it's, say, the stock's up at 66 cents, whatever, 1366. Well, I know that 1350 is probably going to be a point of support if it's not already on the chart. So I'll put it in at 49, just below that, so that I don't get stopped out too early, but I allow myself some leeway so that if it's $1.50 to the upside and 16 cents to the downside, my risk reward is much greater. So my reward is much greater than my risk. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go down that little bit.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess also on that subject of losses, what was one of your biggest losses so far?
One of my biggest losses was actually baby. I let it go $9,000 against me.
Oof.
Yeah. That was after my $27,000 week. So I think I got a little overconfident, and I had an emotional entry. I thought, oh yeah, I had a great Friday. This is wonderful. And that was a Monday. And I was just like, you know what? And I ended up holding it for a week. And closed it out the next Monday because I thought, you know what, it's not coming back. I'm being a bag holder here. I'm just not, I can use this money to go forward with something else instead of just letting it sit there and lose. So I went ahead and cut it, and it was a mental thing. Over the weekend, I got, I accepted it. It's like all the stages of grief, right? I had to look and say, okay, well, it's not getting better. I need to just accept this. I need to go ahead and cut the loss because there's more potential with the money than just letting it sit there and lose. So as hard as it is to accept a loss, I went ahead and cut it and just move forward because every trade is a new trade, and I learned from my mistake, and now I'm trying to be better with my stops and protect myself.
What advice would you give to somebody else in a similar situation?
Well, I would say try not to get yourself into that situation, but if you do break your rules, go ahead and cut the loss, because it could come back, but it could also get potentially worse. And if you've accepted it and you're okay with it, just go ahead and cut it because you can use that capital to make money instead of just sit there and continue to lose.
Have you checked on baby since?
No, I haven't recently, actually.
I was going to ask you as the follow-up on that. Have you looked back and seen where it would have, or I guess where it did go afterwards?
Now I'm going to see. I'm going to look. I'm going to check really quickly. I mean, I don't even remember my entry and exit, and let's see.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. It would have come up. It would have come up, let's see, April 19th. That happened middle of, let's see, I think that happened, I'd say it happened about April 11th, and then it looks like April 19th or 20th I would have gotten out at a profit. But
So if you'd held it 2 weeks instead of one, it wouldn't have been so bad.
Exactly. But
But you don't recommend that, obviously.
Yeah,
In the meantime, that would have been a whole lot of red on your screen that would have been just making you feel awful.
Exactly. Every time I'd come to my computer, it wouldn't have been a positive. I mean, I think a lot of, I was talking with Mandy, and I can't pronounce her last name, but she's a trader in Australia. And a lot of it is also mental mindset. If you're thinking about negativity, then you're not going to be clear headed to go forward and execute a trade very well. So if I have that, even if I have a disagreement with my husband or something, a conflict, or I'm running back and I sit down at my desk late at say 9:16 or 9:18, it really actually affects my day because I'm not on par and I'm not clear headed. I'm distracted in a certain way. In the same way, I also do yoga, and yoga is very much about being present in the moment. And I find that's the same with trading. You have to be present in the moment in the price action, not hoping or wanting the price to do something for you, but to actually be in that price action. And if it's going against you, cut it. If it's going up, that's something else I have to get better at, is letting it continue to rise, because I see the profit and I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, it's going all right. Wonderful. And then I feel the beginning of tension and I go ahead and I lock the profit.
So, I guess on the flip side, was that $27,000 week your biggest week so far?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And my biggest month too.
Well, and you haven't even. It sounds like so. Right now we're sitting in May, and you said that you started back in November, like really, really, truly focusing on it.
Yes, I started back in November to really focus on trading, do my paper trading. Well, September I did paper trading. November I went to real money, very small, to try to gain my confidence with winning trades and gain my confidence in seeing that my trades were, I had better trades than losses. And then in January I brought my account out of the negative and I started to just have profits really. On my profit chart.
Okay, and so it's really only been about 6 or 7 months since you've really, truly focused on it, and that's huge, huge in such a short amount of time.
Yes.
So I also wanted to just really quick. I pulled this up while you were looking up baby. You were talking about MGC.
I got stopped out at 0.94.
Yeah, it would have been up. It did in fact do exactly what you said, just not as big. So
Yeah.
before we got started on this recording, you were watching MGT. You were waiting for that 310, and got stopped out just as we were preparing. So we went ahead. Maybe I should let you go a little further.
No. Of course not. No, I had my stop and I was okay with that. And for sure, now you've made me curious. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
316-ish right now.
yeah. And actually, probably because at 3 o'clock, the shorts are going to start to have short calls, it's probably going to continue up the rest of the day. Actually, I might go and place a little trade while we're talking.
Go for it. Go for it. So, are you a fan of using social media in your trading research?
Definitely. Well, for myself, I wasn't on Twitter at all until I joined Timothy's trading challenge, because that's one of the things that he recommended, was definitely to go in and to become have a Twitter account. Excuse me. And so I went ahead and I opened a Twitter account and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to follow some people. I followed Tim. I followed a couple other people. And I thought, well, I don't really use this. And then later I started posting what I was doing as sort of a price alert system. And as I started to gain in my profits, I started to gain in my followers too. I actually just broke 3,000 followers today.
Nice.
Thank you. So it's great because I really enjoy helping people. And from the demographics actually of my Twitter followers, I see it's 87% men, 13% women, which I feel like it should be more 50-50. Obviously, I do think it's a male-dominated field, because many women don't think to do it. They don't think, oh, well, let me sit down and learn stocks. I think the stigma is it's just a male field. And in the reality, men and women are the exact same behind a computer screen. It doesn't matter. There's no glass ceiling or anything. It's just yourself and the computer and the stock market and the price action. So there's no reason why a woman should be fearful to study it and learn it and try it and see if it's a good fit for them.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's such a discrepancy in the gender balance?
I think it's more just that women don't think to try it. Um, it's not something that they would necessarily say, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try day trading. They might look at more value investing, um, which I think female value investors are fairly well represented. I don't know the numbers, but I think you have Susie Orman, who's a big promoter of female investors, and I think day trading, especially with all the movies too, it's all men. And there really aren't that many books out there either about female day traders. And I think it's important to try to inspire women. I've been at it 6, 7 months, like you said, but even if I have a big failure, I'm going to try to learn from it. And I'm going to share that so that others can learn as well, because it's not something that women should be fearful of trying. If you can learn anything, you can learn a new language, you can learn chart patterns. I spoke with a nurse about how she's been trading, and she says, looking at a chart is like looking at a heartbeat for me. I just start to see the patterns, and it makes sense. But a lot of people don't realize that they can bring experiences from their life into trading. Like, I'm also an instrument rated pilot. So doing a scan of different charts and price action is natural to me. And I think it'd be very easy actually for other pilots because of that reason. It's just something that they're used to in their day-to-day life.
So I guess kind of what do you see as some of the biggest hurdles that are really preventing women from getting in on board? Is there
I
anything specific to women, do you think, or is it just that it's so portrayed as a male industry?
I think it's just that women don't think to get into it. So I just went into MGT. Um, so they don't necessarily say, "Oh, hey, guess what? I'm going to learn how to day trade today," or they might not actually look for research. Ooh, up to 325. And so I think it's just something that they don't think about it every day as I'm going to go into this field, when they can very, very easily.
Okay. So what advice would you give, especially a new female trader, but really any new trader that is looking to get into trading, or maybe just has a little interest and doesn't really know?
Yeah, well, I set up actually a page on my blog about it that, a good timeline for new traders is basically go ahead and find a mentor, whoever that might be, to someone that you can follow and trust and that will help you, as well as paper trading. Study the market, whether that is via books or DVDs or webinars, however you want to do it, or even in chat rooms, just listening in a chat room. Go ahead and study the market and paper trade before you get in with real money so that you understand the market, you understand what's going on. As exciting as it is to want to jump in and do those trades, it's really a detriment to do it without any knowledge, because you can get lucky just executing trades here and there, but you're probably going to end up losing right off the bat if you don't study and learn the information.
So, kind of as a follow-on to that, of course, you can have all the information in the world, but then at the end of the day, you still have to pull the trigger and deal with your own emotions surrounding it. How do you deal with those emotions?
Well, for me, I'd say I try to go ahead and protect my trades now with stops. If it went against me, okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept that stop. It's really difficult. That $9,000 loss was really tough to handle, but I definitely learned from it, and I know that I'm not perfect. I am human. I'm not a computer. I'm going to have days where my trades are not going to be the best, but I'm not going to try to force trades then. I'm just going to go ahead and, wait for the trade setups to come to me. And emotionally, if I'm not with it, I really try not to revenge trade and go into a stock and say, well, this stock owes me because I lost on it. No, I'm gonna stop, step back, and watch and see if there's a setup. I'm not gonna force anything because if my mind is hung up emotionally on a trade, I'm not going to be able to execute it well, and I'm not going to be able to profit from it probably.
And that would definitely be, I mean, good, really good advice for life.
Yeah.
Stop, take a breath, see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, especially in this with the markets, it's said pretty often that the markets will just amplify whatever is already in you. If you're an angry person, you're going to be very angry. If you're a happy person, you'll probably be pretty happy. You'll experience those highs and lows so much more. And they're only going to show you the weaknesses that you already have. If you're particularly anxious and you really want to, like, you're really eager, you're not good at having patience, it's going to show you that. And it's going to show you that through a lot of bad traits.
Definitely.
And so
And it's honestly, I do think it's a reflection of who you are in the market and how you deal with your trades. If you have a loss, the best thing I can say is learn from it. Don't beat yourself up because, especially in the beginning, you're not an expert. You have so much to learn that you're expected to end up making errors, but learn from them. Don't beat yourself up about them.
So I think to just kind of start wrapping things up, do you have any rules that you use, either mental or written down, that you refer to when you're doing your trades?
I would say that I probably uh, tell myself, I have times that I don't want to enter the market. I don't want to go long at about 10:30 in the day because I just see from my past trades when I go long, it usually goes against me. Same thing in entering the market long before 9:50. I just try not to do it because it will go against me. Um, let's see what else. I try to cut my losers fairly quickly. Um, and what else? I mean, I had them written down over here. Let's see. Take time to watch to get into an entry. Don't be emotional about it. Is it a pattern that I recognize? What's the risk reward ratio there? Is it something that is going to be a benefit to me getting in right there, or is it going to tank against me, with like MGT right now? And what is the benefit to the trade?
Perfect. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap things up. So if anybody is interested in learning more about you, getting in touch, they want to read your blog, what's a good way to find you and where?
Well, I'm on Twitter as Jane underscore YUL or Airplane Jane. You can see my picture there. Also, I have my blog, See Jane Trade. And I'm also on Instagram and I have a Facebook page as well and LinkedIn. And I'm pretty much accessible. If people send me questions, I'm happy to answer them. I don't necessarily answer them immediately because I do have life outside of trading with my little one, and she definitely comes first. But I do try to help people, especially because I was in their shoes, and it really wasn't that long ago that I was in their shoes learning and trying to figure out the market and trying to make headway with all the information and process it and figure out the best route for myself.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I am really excited to share this with everybody. And as I was telling you beforehand, I am actually going to leave this interview up public for everybody to see for as long as the site is live. I think it's definitely a valuable one that everybody should be able to see. So I wanted to make sure to share it with everyone. So you can find that on the website here. It'll be under your profile page. So you can just search Airplane Jane or Jane on the website, and you'll be able to find that, as well as on YouTube and wherever Jane shares it. So yeah, thank you so much. And I guess until next time.
Thank you, Jacob. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.